Hello, everyone. It's happy Mondays. It's not Sunday today. It's Monday. Yeah, I was in Edinburgh yesterday. That's why I didn't do Ask the Drummer on a regular slot, which is a Sunday. Hope you've all had a lovely week last week. So it's brand new week today. Welcome to another episode of Ask the Drummer. It's now 4 minutes till 6 in the evening in the UK, which means it's nearly 2 o'clock in the morning in Manila. I hope some of you, my dear friends, are still up and watching us and joining us live. If not, you can always just catch up later on YouTube, Ask the Drummer YouTube channel. Anyways, so today's guest, I'm really excited about her and her band because a friend of mine actually recommended it to me, and he said to me that you've got to go and see them. So I did, and I saw them a few months ago in Hebden Bridge. And I've got to say, I was really blown away by the band, and especially today's guest, the drummer. She's absolutely amazing, and she's here today, which I'm really, really happy about. So, my dear friends, please welcome Lucy Board of Pale Blue Eyes. Oops, sorry, let me just go this. Hello, Lucy, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for that kind introduction.
Oh no, it's all right. I should have clicked the the having you on the screen before I clap, but anyways, yeah, that gig at Hebden Bridge, that was amazing, wasn't it?
I love that venue. I think me and my husband, who I play in the band with,
Yeah.
we've been going. We went there like years ago for like a heavenly weekender with
Oh yeah,
temples and Toy. I think loads of bands on their roster, and we always said like, oh, this is such a cool venue. I hope we get to
yeah,
play it. And then I think we've done it twice now on like UK tours, and yeah, it's
yeah,
been sold out, and it's just been they're incredible. Like they're such good hosts, and like we always have
yeah.
a brilliant crowd. Yeah, it was such a good atmosphere, that one you came to.
And the place itself, the place is absolutely amazing. I do love Hebden Bridge, and
Yeah.
especially that venue. And I don't know if you've tried the food there.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The Indonesian food that they have, it's so
Yes, so
good.
good.
Yeah. But anyways, so welcome to Ask the Drummer, and thank you for saying yes to guesting on the show.
Pleasure.
Episode 148 is all about you, Lucy Boyd. I actually got your name wrong the first time because I thought it was Lucy Broad. And then,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that is a typo that goes around a lot, to be fair. I think in our own stuff, we accidentally include Lucy and Matt Broad on our
yeah,
press releases a lot.
because Billy Idol. I mean, Billy Idol is William Broad, and then there's a drummer called Graham Broad as well. So when I actually looked, I thought, oh, it's Broad, not Broad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, can you tell us a bit about where you were from and what was it like growing up where you were born?
I was born in Sheffield, which is where I now live as well. Um, so I grew up in. I think Sheffield's got quite a cool alternative electronic sort of music scene, or has done historically. Um, yeah, I love Sheffield. I love the music scene. I love the music that's derived from Sheffield and more broadly, like up north, like Manchester and Liverpool. There's
Yeah.
lots of cool stuff happening, I think. But there's cool stuff happening everywhere. But yeah, Sheffield's brilliant. And then I moved to Devon to study, and that's where I met Matt. And then we stayed in Devon for quite a long time, and that's
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
like formed our band and stuff like this. And then me and Matt moved back up to Sheffield about a year and a half ago. So now we're kind of based in Sheffield again, and we've got a little studio here
Yeah.
and stuff like
Have you always been into music? I mean, are you from a musical family?
that. I've always been into music, and I'm really lucky that I've been very like single-minded and stubborn. That's just all I've ever wanted to do since I was about 9.
Oh,
So I think like I had really encouraging like my mum and dad were really supportive of me doing music, so I started playing trumpet. Was actually the first thing I started playing.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I think it was quite a musical home, really, because my dad used to always play bass when we would, like, when we'd gone to sleep in the evenings. My dad would start playing, like, practicing bass, or my mum would be playing like the piano downstairs.
Oh,
So there was always music, you know. And then obviously my parents were very like encouraging and supportive, and like found a way for me to get trumpet lessons, piano lessons. So they were my first sort of key instruments. Was learning sort of like piano was good for learning chords and things like that, and trumpet was obviously good for learning like leads, kind of melodies. And then drums was kind of like a bit of my sort of rebellious teenage streak where I decided I really wanted to play the drums. And even though I was being like I was sort of studying trumpet formally, I think drums was like my personality, and it was like I want to play the drums, and I kind of taught myself, and my dad helped me a bit. And I think my dad brought me to his friend's studio once and kind of gave me a taster lesson on drums. So
I see.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. But was there a specific moment in time where you said, "This is really what I wanted to do"? Because you were doing trumpet and you were doing piano, but yeah, apart from being rebellious, they just playing the drums. But was there like maybe watching a TV and you saw someone play the drums? Was there like an influence there somewhere, or you just wanted to, do and play
I
drums?
think I just wanted to do it all. I was a bit indecisive. And I just wanted to do all of the different parts. So I used to, when I was sort of, when other people were probably starting to do like normal kid things, I was just like in our back room playing piano. And then my dad had a little Tascam like recorder, and he like showed me how to use it. And I'd start trying to sort of play piano and then overdub drums and then overdub trumpet. And like even like when I was a teenager, me and my dad used to collaborate on little jazz tracks where
Oh,
we'd
right.
learn like a jazz standard, and then he'd play the bass and I'd play the drums, and then I'd do some piano and then I'd do some trumpet. So I think there were loads of things really when I think back that inspired me to want to do music, but I can't think of like until I was a bit older, I can't think of a pivotal drum moment other than I think when I was about 16 or 17, my dad started bringing me to a jazz night at our local
Yeah.
pub, and there was this amazing drummer called Caroline Bowden, and I don't know, I think she's like pretty well known in the sort of jazz scene. I mean, she was absolutely incredible, and as like a sort of as a young female,
Yeah.
being a
Yeah.
female drummer playing in a kind of jazz, a kind of contemporary jazz situation really inspired me. And I remember sort of being a bit like starstruck by how incredibly good she was. And I remember
Yeah.
like at the end of the gig being like, Dad, I want to go and, say hi to that drummer.
I
She's
see.
so amazing. And I feel like that was a bit of a turning point for me, being like,
Yeah.
oh, she's not making a fuss about the fact she's a woman either. She's just playing the drums really well. And I
Yeah.
love that. That was inspiring.
I found out from doing Ask the Drummer that there's actually a big difference between a jazz drummer and a rock drummer,
Yeah.
and a reggae drummer as well. It's different things.
Yeah.
So do you do like a bit of both? Do you do a bit of jazz drumming yourself, or?
Well, the thing is, I feel like my way into a lot of the music that I learned when I was young was through jazz. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
trumpet, I did kind of get really into that. But I think I'd say my drumming was always, I did study through that route. But then once I got to, and same like all the way up to uni, I feel like a lot of my study was around jazz drumming.
Jazz.
But
Oh,
I,
okay.
yeah, but then when I started playing drums in the first bands I was in, it was all like, it was rock and it was like girl punk. And
Yeah.
then it was like, this was just like in Sheffield when I was a teenager. Then it was kind of like electro pop. And then I kind of did a bit of, we were sort of like playing in a sort of folky thing at uni. So I think I kind of dabbled in loads
Also,
of
yeah, different types of drumming.
before I
Yeah,
kind of got onto PBE, which I'd say is a bit of a, it's a crossover of things as well, but it's
yeah, yeah.
definitely not, it's not jazzy, but every so often maybe there is a little jazz inflection in
And
what
yeah,
I
yeah.
come up with.
Yeah, because you mentioned like being a female drummer. Because I actually looked it up on Google, the ratio of so like male drummers to
Mm.
female drummers, and it says that I don't know if this is true though. Like 90% are male drummers and 10% are female drummers. And I think music industry itself, generally speaking, is a male dominated industry, anyways.
Mm.
So it also says that because the not many people encourage the women to do like drums. So
Yeah,
would you say it's would you agree to that or
I think it's change. I like to think things are
it's
progressing and changing, aren't they? Like I
yeah,
definitely feel like in 2024 we're seeing. I'm
more
definitely like
so
playing more gigs where I see a woman synthesizer
yeah,
player, or a woman guitarist, or a woman bassist, or a woman drummer. Um, so I think it's changing. Like the ratio must be it must be gradually changing.
yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah,
definitely, I mean, fundamentally, I agree that like it does. There are things like, say, sound engineers. Definitely, we come across way more male sound engineers than female sound engineers. Like, but maybe I think it's all moving in a positive direction in terms of that.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but it
yeah,
definitely is. I mean, also playing trumpet. I don't think it was most like sort of becoming instrument for a female when I was growing up. It was, it wasn't that. I don't think there were loads of like female trumpet players that I was inspired by. So I think both, all trumpet and drums were way more male dominated instruments, but for some reason that didn't cross my mind really as a youngster.
yeah,
I just kind of
yeah,
wanted to do it, and I think I was really lucky that like my family and my back, I've got three sisters, so I feel like my dad is a real feminist, like a true, in the true sense of the word, that he was
yeah,
really encouraging to me and my sisters, that he was like, you can do what you want kind of thing, which was
yeah,
really cool. I was lucky to have that kind of a mentality, I
yeah.
think.
Well, do you still play trumpet?
Yeah, yeah,
Do you?
yeah.
Well, not during when you do Pale Blue Eyes gigs.
No, yeah, I can't play them both at once. I've put a little bit on the new next PBE album, has got a tiny little bit of trumpet on it, but it doesn't come up often in this band. But yeah, I still play it. Like I still use it as a sort of tool in the studio and stuff. And I
Yeah.
mean, right now, if you asked me to play trumpet, I'd probably be quite bad at it because I've not picked it up for ages. But
Oh,
it takes me a couple of weeks to kind of get back into that.
yeah. You mentioned that you're from Sheffield because Sheffield's got loads of bands, especially like electronic new wave or what we call new wave in the Philippines. You've got ABC and Human League, Heaven
Yeah.
17, and all
Yeah.
that. I found out that you actually did the dissertation at uni about Sheffield music, and this was like music from 19 between 1973 and 1978.
Yeah.
I thought that's amazing. I wish I could have done that. Is that part of because you were doing trumpet as a degree, as a music degree, or
I was doing like, well, so I studied music in at an arts college in Devon, which is why
yeah,
it was quite ironic in a way that I moved away from Sheffield. Then when I decided to write my dissertation, I wanted to write it about the Sheffield music scene, even though I'd moved to Devon. But for some reason, I was kind of drawn back to looking into the roots of my own place where I grew up, kind of thing.
yeah,
And also I was playing. I was, even when I was at uni in Devon, I was sort of playing with musicians in Sheffield. So I was still kind of engaged and interested in the Sheffield scene. And
yeah,
if you
yeah,
kind of track back, it was just interesting to like, I suppose my degree let me study that dissertation. I could have almost chose anything to write about it as long as it fitted in to their,
yeah.
the module or
Degree.
the
Yeah,
syllabus or
yeah,
whatever it was. But yeah, it was a really specific kind of 5-year period that I looked into, where it was like sort of Cabaret Voltaire were on the scene in Sheffield, and I think things feed into other things. So it was just interesting doing a little bit of a deep dive into like what inspired them and what inspired them.
Yeah.
And I went off on all these tangents, and I ended up, it was stuff like I'd end up watching A Clockwork Orange and listening to the soundtrack because I read in one book that some musician in Sheffield was totally inspired by that. And then I would like start researching Kraftwerk because a load of Sheffield musicians had like were inspired by them, and
Yeah.
everything just kind of led to other things. And it was
Yeah,
really interesting.
yeah, it's fascinating. It's like I wish I could have done that when I was at university, but I didn't have a music degree or anything. But yeah, it's like, did you actually get to meet all the like people, the musicians from that scene?
What,
Or
for my dissertation?
yeah, for your dissertation, did you speak to them or did you like?
Do you know what I did? What I did was, when I looked back over that, because it came up in conversation a few times in the last few years, it was a while ago. This is going to show my age now, but it was when MySpace was still a thing. So I was actually contacting people through MySpace. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah,
Or
yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah, that's
I've got like weird conversations that I saved with people from. So basically, there's a really good film called Made in Sheffield, I think it was called, and it was like by a lady called Eve Wood. And I sort of like managed to track down there was this amazing book called Beats Working for a Living, and that was in the library at Dartington. And that was written by a guy called Martin Lilliker, who was a journalist in Sheffield, who I think sadly has now passed away. But my friend Adrian, who's a musician who was always in Sheffield and who I played with a bit, he managed to put me in touch with this journalist, Martin Lilliker, who'd written this book all about Sheffield music scene. So it was like, joining all the dots. I managed to meet him for a cup of tea and like just ask him, probably at the time, really stupid questions because I didn't know what I was on about, but it was still interesting. And to be fair, I did get a first for my dissertation, so I'm quite proud of that.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, did you know that Cherry Red Records released a compilation album? It's it's called Dreams to Fill the Vacuum. Oh yeah,
Right.
Dreams to Fill the Vacuum, which is the sound of Sheffield from 1978 to 1988.
Right.
So that's when you like laughed off because you only did until 1978.
Yeah,
this
like
compilation. This compilation album is actually from 1978 or between 1978 to 1980. Have you got a copy of that?
No, No, I don't think so.
No, because that's, I mean, I normally buy compilation albums like the Liverpool one and the Glasgow one and Manchester, of course. But I didn't get a copy of this for some reason. But I looked at the track listing. It's actually quite good because they have like Cabaret Voltaire and the Dance Society,
right?
And the Pulp, ABC and all that. So that's very good. So you were already in a band in Sheffield before you moved to Devon, or?
Well, it was just funny timing because again, I think it happened through MySpace. I think my friend Adrian, who has done loads of cool things over the years. At the time, his project was called Kings Have Long Arms. And actually, that's kind of how I met Dean, who's produced all our albums. Well, he's like final mixed and mastered all our albums. So I met him through Adrian. But they were just kind of on the scene in Sheffield doing really cool electronic pop. And so he contacted me.
Yeah.
Because I'd been in bands before uni in Sheffield. Like Vanity Case was a band I was in with my friends that was like a kind of girly punk band.
And you're the drummer. Were you the drummer in that?
Yeah, I was the drummer in that. But we were, we were teenagers. We played at like all the venues in Sheffield, like the Boardwalk and the Grapes. And lots of them have shut down now, those venues. But I had sort of like my first gigging experiences with Vanity Case. Then I was in a band called Former Toys, which was kind of like in that bit after school and before uni, where I was sort of working in a sandwich shop and playing in Former Toys. and that was another band I played drums in with, again, really good mates of mine who I'm still in touch with. And then
Yeah.
Adrian contacted me about playing some drums in his project, but I don't think he knew that I'd actually gone to Devon to uni, so it was actually like fairly inconvenient, but I just said yes anyway.
Yeah. So those two bands that you were in, the first two bands, did you do some recording? Did you actually release?
We did. Well, we did a little bit. Yeah, we recorded it somewhere in Sheffield, I think, with both bands actually at different times in the same place.
Yeah.
And I think Former Toys was on maybe on one like funny little compilation thing. I'm not quite sure what happened with it. It might be out there somewhere. And then Vanity Case, we definitely did like an EP or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they were just like bands that were really good fun at the time, and we were sort of cutting our teeth and learning and just playing
Yeah.
the sort of local venues, really.
Yeah, yeah. And then you moved to Devon. That's where you did your degree,
Yeah,
university
I
degree.
kind of
And
stayed there pretty much.
yeah, yeah. And did you have Pale Blue Eyes as a band straight away, or did you have any other bands
No, we
before?
had bands. We had plenty of bands. Like at uni, I was playing in various bands. I was playing trumpet in a couple of bands and drums in a
Oh,
couple of bands. But just again, it was all just within the kind of university structure. So we had access to
yeah,
rehearsal rooms, we had access to a small recording studio. So all of us did lots of stuff at uni together.
yeah,
And then at the end of uni, I moved back to Sheffield for about a year before I then moved back down to Devon to join Matt,
yeah,
who at the time had a band with, again, a bunch of mates from uni, and I joined that band, which was called Matthew and Me, which was a little bit more like, it's totally different to this, I think.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But in that band, we did loads of stuff as well, had loads of experiences, started doing our first kind of gigs in London and festival slots and things like that, had loads of amazing experiences with those guys. We were kind of like, it's like just after uni, I moved down and joined to play drums, but I also did bits of trumpet on the recordings. And then we did a few years of that project. And then PBE really, funny enough, came out of the end of that, and almost like a period of time where me and Matt we were just kind of writing, but actually without any kind of knowing what was going to happen next.
Yeah.
And then we met Aubrey, who was doing photos at a festival that we were helping to organize. So we weren't really doing music so much at that time, other than on our own in our studio space.
Yeah.
So yeah, had loads of experiences of playing in different projects before PBE, and then PBE kind of grew out of me and Matt and Aubrey just playing together, like I say, with very little agenda really. He was actually at uni in Bristol and we were in Devon, and we would just get together and rehearse and have a few beers. But then I think lockdown happened, and we'd probably done like 3 gigs or something before lockdown.
But you met Matt in Devon. Was it in the
Yeah.
same university or?
Yeah, he was doing an MA when I was doing my like undergraduate degree. So he was doing like an MA in, I think, songwriting.
Right. Okay. And Aubrey is a photographer doing things. Yeah, yeah. But he's the one who plays bass.
Yeah.
When I saw you in Hebden Bridge, there are 4 band members. One is a keyboard player, and I think he lives in Stockport. I think I remember him saying that he's from Stockport.
Yeah, that was probably Tom, I think. Did he have curly hair?
Curly hair, yeah, the one with the curly hair.
Yeah, so we have a bit of a kind of revolving cast at the moment of like me, Matt, and all kind of met years ago and started PBE, and then in the last 2 years I think we've had 2 or 3 different people that, depending who's free when, we kind of have different iterations of the live thing. Just because everyone's so busy now, and like, Tom's in various other bands and projects, and then we've got our other friend Lewis has started playing when some of the shows when Tom couldn't play, and before that we had a guy called John who was playing percussion.
But it's basically the 3 of you. That's Pale Blue Eyes, and then whoever you can get to play keyboards. Then Yeah. Can I just ask, so where did the name come from?
Um,
'Cause-
well, that was really, I think historically, me and Matt just get a bit overthinky, as loads of people do. You know, we overthink everything, and we were trying to come up with a band name, and that name just came from the fact that because everyone says, "Oh, it's a Velvet Underground track," and it
yeah.
is. It is a Velvet, obviously, but it was just really because Matt's dad, who passed away around the time when we started PBE, Matt's dad had passed away quite like unexpectedly, and it was a song that was quite poignant to us because he used to listen to the Velvets all the time. So we'd like wake up in the morning and he'd have his record player on, and it for us it was a bit of an ode to him and like our memory of him. And also, it's just quite a nice image of the idea of some pale blue eyes. We just thought, oh, that's a nice kind of like descriptive band name, and it's a bit
Yeah.
of an ode to Danny, Matt's dad, and it just meant something to us, really. So that's why we went with it. We went round the houses. We had some ridiculous band names that we'd come up with at the pub, and then we were like, well, that one's quite nice. Why don't we just go for that one?
Yeah. I actually know this song as an Edwin Collins Paul Quinn song, and I only found out when I was doing the script that it's actually a Velvet Underground song. Because that's how I didn't know that one. So how long before, like, you met Matt at university, and then you were in the band together, but how long before you actually got married?
When did we get married? A long time went past, and getting married was really fun. Actually, we did that 6 years ago. So when's that in the timeline of PBE? Actually, before PBE, isn't it? Yeah, around the same time. I think we start. I mean, Aubrey took photos at our wedding, and he played
Oh,
bass when we got married.
yeah, yeah.
His dad is an incredible drummer, one of the best drummers in the world, in my view. And we asked Aubrey's dad that basically Aubrey's dad had like a covers band at the time where they did like really cool versions of tunes. Honestly, like the best covers band ever.
Yeah.
Not your typical wedding band. This was like something else. We asked them to play at the wedding, and they did. So Aubrey actually got up and played bass on a track with his dad at our wedding, and that was before we'd even really started playing music.
But is it easier to have someone like, having a husband playing in the same band, or maybe anyone like maybe brother or sister or something? Is it easier or harder?
I mean, I think our manager would say it saves money on accommodation.
Oh, okay.
No, it's fun. It's brilliant. I love being in a band with Matt, and we love it because we always, both separately, we wanted to do music. So the fact we can do it together is almost like a bit of a bonus for us, because I think we're both similarly stubborn that we just wanted to, play in a band, play music, tour, and like to have met someone else that kind of is as crazily into it as I am, and vice versa, is really nice. So it's cool that we get to do it together. I think it just means that we are working together and are married, which some couples would say, some couples might struggle with, but we love it. So it works for us.
But when it comes to like songwriting and
We should do it
how
all together, really.
so you don't argue how it's going to be or things like that?
Maybe in the process of learning how to work together, maybe historically we would have a bit, or we'd have at least kind of like had a differing opinion on something and both felt that our opinion was the right opinion. But I think now there's quite a nice level of unspoken trust sort of between me and Matt, and then also in turn between me, Matt, and Aubrey, where like I think Aubrey sort of trusts me and Matt and leaves us to it when we're sort of doing in the initial writing stages of a track, and we'll be like, and actually often it will be Matt that is the very first stage where he picks up a guitar and comes up with a song, and then it sort of spreads out to he'll show me the track, then we'll kind of produce it together in the studio and add parts and demo things, and then we'll show that to Orbs, and then he'll come in and either have an opinion on it or put a bass on it. And I think we just have quite a nice, at the minute we have a really nice dynamic where I think hopefully Aubrey feels the same way, but like we all kind of just trust each other with it. And I think that we're really lucky that we don't fall out over stuff. We just kind of go, I trust you with that bit. So like I do a lot of the kind of synthesizers, I do quite a bit of arrangement.
I suppose in a way it's easy because you live together. So if he's got something in mind, he can tell you or show you straight away. You don't have to sort of travel and
yeah, totally. Well, that is the thing, is it does sometimes come down to that kind of practical element, because when we did the first 2 PV albums, it was during and after, it was sort of like in the midst of lockdown. So there was like a practical element of like, we literally couldn't see Aubrey. So we were just sending him stuff to show him what we were doing, but we weren't all allowed to be together. So there is an element of it just being like that. And like you say, it's just we built a studio at the back of our old, like at Matt's parents' house in Devon.
Oh, I see. But so you don't live there at the moment. You're in Sheffield, right?
Yeah. So we built a studio space at the back of Matt's parents' house that we used for 2 or 3 years, and then we had to move away from Devon, and sort of like both Matt's mum and dad had passed away. So we've had like quite a lot of stuff happen down in Devon that was like at that house that was quite hard. So in the end, we decided to just have a fresh start and move away from Devon, move up to Sheffield, and build a new studio space at the back of our house in Sheffield, which is what we've been doing this year. So we've finished this. The space I'm in now is our like home studio space. And we finished that in June of this year, but we kind of just had to go for a very DIY approach. So like Matt's done a lot of the sort of manual labor aspect himself, and like trying to soundproof it, because it's quite like a residential area. So we've had to like soundproof it as much as we can so that we don't annoy the neighbors.
Especially the drums.
That was like the key thing, is I was like, how am I going to practice my drums? But we've like essentially kind of built inside this kind of garage at the back of the house, and we've kind of built a room within a room and just tried to insulate it loads as much as we possibly can. Matt's just building all of these, he just keeps buying like wood and rock wool and fabric and just like making more and more panels, like these panels behind. He's just making loads of them at the moment and just putting them everywhere.
Oh God. Well, at least he's very good at doing DIY. He doesn't have to sort of like ask people.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So it's a recording studio and a rehearsal studio? Or?
It's just, it's just we rehearsing it, but it's not it's like more for recording, but we can rehearse in it, which is a real obviously added bonus for us, because until we had this up and running, we were rehearsing in this like, it was a really cool studio in Sheffield, but it was like up about 3 flights of stairs on the top floor of a building. And so we were rehearsing there, and obviously, just lugging your kit up and down, and it's fine. I'm not complaining, but.
So are you looking at maybe in the future, other bands can use your recording studio to do their
totally. We've already started actually to work. We've sort of been finishing our own album in the last month, and then we've just started working with a couple of other people. So someone came over from Manchester last week, and someone who's Sheffield based came over also like the end of last week. So we're just starting to do a bit of that as well.
Yeah. Oh wow. Well, what about fans? Being married to Matt. What's your reaction towards fans? It's sort of like girls wanting to have photos with him, or maybe
I haven't thought about
it. So what's the situation with you and Matt about things like photos or signatures and?
I think,
Maybe.
to be honest, it's such a massive compliment if anyone wants a photo or wants to like do stuff like that. We're just buzzing that people feel anything about the band that's positive. So we just like anything like that. I've not really thought about it in that way, to be fair. I don't know. I think it's all fine.
And he's fine with it as well. Like if there's some male fans who wanted a photo with you, he's fine with that as
I
well.
mean, yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
he is. I'm trying to think if that's even ever happened. Have I ever had a fan?
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you have. I was in Huddersfield last Friday, and I saw a poster that you're playing in Huddersfield at the parish.
Yes,
It
next
looks like
Saturday.
it's a festival or some kind of a like
Mm.
loads of bands playing. Because I also noticed that the Orioles are playing with.
Yeah, I'm excited to see them again.
Yeah.
I think it's like a multi-venue festival because they've got quite a few bands. I think they've got Silverbacks are playing as well. I can't remember the lineup, but it's jam packed.
Yeah. I saw the poster. I thought, oh wow, that's Pale Blue Eyes, and then I saw the Orioles as well. And I thought,
Yeah.
that looks really, really good. So, what was that I'm gonna say to you? You're touring again this year, or you're just finishing the album?
So that Huddersfield gig is our last gig of this year.
Of this year, yeah.
Yeah, and then we're just tying up our next album at the minute, which we should have like more news on in the next few weeks, I think. I can't quite remember the timeline, but we are going to be gigging again next year, but we are having a little bit of a break now from gigging because we've been on a bit of a mad one where we did loads for about 18 months where we just didn't stop. And I think now's a good time, like especially like December and January is a bit grim anyway in the UK. So like we're ready to hibernate for a little bit, finish off the album, then we'd start having some gigs again that we're going to announce soon, early-ish next year, I think.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking? Do you have kids?
No, we don't. No, but it is a topic of conversation. Obviously, being a husband and wife in a band, that's something we do talk about. It remains to be seen how we juggle that one, but I'm sure we'll make it happen.
Yeah, because it's like with New Order. I think with Stephen Morris and Gillian had to stop for a while. Look after the So
I think we might just have to do. I think obviously you can't really plan these things, but I think it's something to think about for sure. But I think more and more, again, going back to the thing of females in the industry, I think there are more people that are making that work, and I do think it's if you want to do it, if you want to do both things, I think you can find ways. So I'm sort of like optimistic that we'll find ways of making that work. Might just have to bring like one of our friends or one of our sisters away with us or something. But yeah, maybe we're totally open-minded, and the thing is, touring is challenging in some ways, like especially sort of like for a lot of bands at our kind of level, it's still hard financially. So I think you've just got to be realistic, and maybe in the future we just have to like think of some like quirky workaround, but I'm sure we'll find a way. We love the thing is, I think we come back to it a lot, we love doing it, and we'd soon miss it if we weren't doing it. So I think we'll make it possible.
Yeah, but this is like this is the full time for you and Matt being a musician, and so when you're not touring, you're making an album or you're in the studio.
We kind of transitioned to that in the last, I'd say in the last sort of year or so. That's kind of how we're operating. And like when we had the studio space in Devon, we were doing other stuff, like we were recording other bands, like local bands, and we were recording. We actually used to do audiobooks as well, which is where like we had authors coming in and reading their audiobooks, and we would like record it, edit it, and then send it back to the publisher. So we'd have, you have to, I mean, at our level anyway, you have to do other stuff, because if you love doing it, you do it, but you have to find other ways of kind of making ends meet. So we tend to have to do a bit of other studio work, and that's kind of what we've set up again in Sheffield here. So yeah, we are doing it. I mean, when I was in Devon, I had other jobs as well. Like I had bar job, I worked in a cinema, we worked for a festival. Matt used to work in a record shop, so we always had other stuff. But since we moved to Sheffield, we're kind of doing it full time now, which is really cool.
Yeah. Do you get recognized when you go now that you're back in Sheffield? Do you get
No, I mean, I don't think so. I doubt it very much. I also don't go out very much because we've just spent all year making this studio, so we just live in here. I never go out. I can't actually afford a pint anymore.
Is it? Would you say that it's difficult now, or is it hard for an aspiring musician to get into the industry? Because it's quite easy with the internet, isn't it? You just like upload your music and then
it's sort of like, I'd say there's more access, there's more opportunity than ever for anyone to make stuff and share it. I think there's loads of amazing tools, aren't there, available to us now. I think that is actually really cool and really exciting, because it just means there's loads and loads of good music out there. But I think to then in the real world go out and do tours and sustain it, I think is really, really, really challenging in the modern industry. Depending on, like, obviously I'm only drawing on like my own experience, but I think if you love doing it, you'll find a way to do it, and it's brilliant. But I think compared to some other, I think there's like areas of our industry that can be quite unusual in the sense that you'll like do a lot of work and you won't get paid for it in the same way as other people kind of do some work and get paid. It's not as, there's like weird,
you have to wait a certain time.
There might be like things where you have to wait, or there might be things where like things are going to one person and another person and bits are going here and there, and like there's a lot of juggling and different strands to it. But I'm like, I hope that the sort of industry will rebuild and will kind of nurture and support musicians to carry on doing it, because I think it'd be really sad if everyone got put off because of the money side of it being so tight. Just things like when you're young, when you're a band starting off and you get offered an opportunity to support another band, you have to say yes because it's amazing and it's like a once in a lifetime experience. But often you won't actually get paid very much to do it, so you have to find other ways to subsidize that. But I think it's so worthwhile if you can find a way to do it. Because we've had some of like our most amazing life experiences from getting to support other bands. Like early on, we got invited to support Public Service Broadcasting across his whole UK tour, and it was just he was so supportive of us. Like every night of the tour, he would like say to the crowd about us, and like this sort of knock-on impact of that for us was amazing. And then again with Slowdive at the beginning of this year, we got to go all around Europe with them, and it was like 20 dates or something, 25 dates, and it was like, I mean, we've talked about it a lot this year because it was like one of the most amazing things we've ever got to do. It's pretty much like inspired a lot of like some of the sort of lyrical content of our next album is based off of our experiences of how amazing that was. So you have to say yes to it and you have to find ways to make it work, but it is by no means like on paper amazing financially, but it is something you have to do if you can. But like I'd say that the worry is sometimes if people are getting offered those opportunities and they just can't find a way to make it work, it is like, well, how are we going to do this? How are we going to say yes to this? And then that's what scares me a bit, is you've got really good bands who are pushed to their limit, and then they break up before they kind of even
to those
next
things. Well,
so it's tricky.
Yeah, you're doing headline gigs now. What was like the experience of sort of like seeing the support band supporting you? Do
Um,
you go and see them when they're
yeah,
playing, or do you
yeah,
sort of like
yeah. Well, often I feel like again in the in the sort of current like industry as it is, it's often like your friend or like someone you know or someone off the same label as you. So it's kind of like you all just, I think there's a really nice sort of community now that's building where you're all trying to help each other out,
yeah, yeah,
and someone might give you an opportunity, you might give someone an opportunity, and it kind of all feeds into each other. And yeah, I think it's really cool. Like there's a brilliant sort of, there's loads of
natural.
these bands that we're coming across and like loads of good friends we're making through the music industry. So I think it's, yeah, there's loads of positives to it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I always sort of like wonder, how do the headliners choose the support band? Does it have to be sort of like similar music genre, or does it
I
have to be
thought
like
so.
that?
I don't, I think it must be different for different people. And I definitely know that there was some bands that we like really, we sort of were keen to get supporting us, and exactly what I said was true, where like a couple of times, because we were still sort of dealing in smallish size venues, we'd like,
Yeah,
it would be a case of how is this gonna be viable for everyone. So I think loads of factors come into it. I remember once seeing Brian Jonestown Massacre
oh yeah,
put,
yeah.
I think they put a tweet up or something, some social media, just saying like, I want this band and this band only to support me. And it was another band called Sound Carriers, who were brilliant. And I
Oh,
remember thinking that's so iconic, because at this point in their career, they can pretty much just say that. And then they got it. I
yeah,
think they did actually join. So Sound Carriers did support them on a handful of dates, I think. But I love that. It's like if you're Brian Jonestown Massacre, you can make those demands. But I think, I think it comes down to finding stuff you like, and I think
yeah,
there are some, like, I'm sure there's like a few practical considerations as well. But I think it's like if things kind of are going to glue together musically as well a bit.
yeah. So do you manage yourself, or do you have your own manager? Do you have a manager?
Um, we used to have two guys managing us who were like really good friends of ours. One of them lived in Devon where we were living, so we had
Okay.
a couple of guys helping us. And then this year we've started working with a manager called Dave, who's brilliant, who's just sort of took over in the last few months. So we
Yeah.
have got, yeah, we've got management. Yeah,
Yeah, because I don't know
yeah.
if it's still the same. Because you hear like articles that in the past, when you get signed to a label, and then bands get this advance of a huge amount of money, but then you don't actually, after that huge amount of money, you don't see anything else. Is it still
Mm.
the case nowadays, or yeah? So like,
Well, we've only had limited experience of being on one label, and that wasn't like it's not. I don't think it's really like. I don't want to say anything either way because I don't know
oh,
what other people's experiences are, but certainly not for us. Um, I think a label offers a lot of support and help and like practical stuff that I'd probably, you know, gosh, I don't like necessarily know all the ins and outs of it, but
yeah,
think like I wonder if unless you're in a sort of major label territory, I don't think there's like huge amounts of money flying around in terms of advances and things like that. But I think there
yeah,
are lots of different. There's certainly like modern deals that are a little bit less advanced, but like maybe more of like a profit share kind of thing that
oh,
I've heard about. But in all honesty, it's not. I'm not. I'm not super clued up on it really. It's
yeah.
all a bit of a kind of learning curve for me.
Because I think nowadays, I mean, it's something that musicians should really think about now. Because you hear stories of quite a lot of the musicians from say the 80s that
Mm,
they didn't get the money or something like that that
mm.
they're supposed to be getting because they were big, but then they didn't get the money and things.
Yeah,
But,
I feel like it is our responsibility to be engaged with
to
it.
know,
Definitely.
yeah, to know more about the
Yeah,
business side. the
Yeah,
music,
I
the
think
music
certainly
industry.
from our experiences is we've always had to take that approach, and we've always had to. I mean, me and Matt have kind of done musicy stuff and been in different projects for quite a long time now, and
Yeah,
we've always had to do a lot of things ourselves and just learn things as we've gone. um, and with PBE, Full Time Hobby, who were our label for the first two albums, were like that was kind of our first experience really of a sort of established label being involved. So we, yeah, I think like you say, it is important now to get your head around it and not shy away from the business side if you want to engage with the industry
yeah,
and to be part of it. But it is
yeah,
complicated, and it it's weird because there's, like I was saying earlier, there's so many strange different little bits to it, because there's like, yeah, there's just lots of mystery areas that it takes
yeah,
years to kind of like pick apart and try and understand. But I think, yeah, we're lucky because we've got a bit of help now with our manager starting to
yeah. As a
explain those
musician,
things to us.
well, as a musician, I think of it as long as you love what you're doing. I think it's that's the main bit, and then of course the
Yeah,
money is always important, but you know,
yeah. I think it's certainly not like, I think if money were like the key driver, I think me and Matt joke about it a lot. Like, we wouldn't be doing this if we were driven by money. We're doing it because we love doing
yeah,
it,
you love what you
and
do.
we're lucky to get to do it together. And like,
Yeah,
we'd rather be in the studio every day, and we'd rather go out on tour than other stuff. That's just
yeah,
us. That's who we are, and it's all we ever wanted to do. So we're not like, well, I sort of joke about it a bit. We're not that driven by that, and we're kind of, but we're doing the thing we love, and we're trying to make it
yeah,
work one way and
yeah,
another. And it
yeah,
is by no means straightforward, our industry. And I think it's almost like more straightforward if you like do something and then someone pays you for it. That's very like black and white. But like, it's a little bit, there's a few more like nuances, I think, to the music industry in there. So
yeah, yeah. I think that's what it is. You know, I've always believed that musicians do it because they love what they're doing, and then they love creating music and making all these songs, which I think the riches or the money side of it, that's a bonus for them.
yeah,
I
I think
always,
we'd
yeah,
be
that's
good.
something.
I if someone like was like, you can't do it anymore, then that's all you have to think about really, is like, well, no.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna ask you this. I always ask the guests about this questions. First of all, is I don't think I've seen you twirl when you played in Hebden Bridge. Do you twirl sticks? Do you do that?
I mean, I feel like I'm the classic example of someone that would try and do that and definitely drop the stick. So I'm gonna say no, but in private, I probably secretly do sometimes.
So you've not done it in any of the games.
I swear I would drop a stick. I'm so clumsy. I don't think it would be a good move for me.
What about drumming heroes? Do you have any?
Drumming heroes. My brain always goes straight to Stella from Warpaint. Do
Oh,
you know
okay.
her? She's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
she's she's brilliant. I just think she's like one of my favorite drummers, and obviously quite inspiring to me. And I think she produces other stuff as well, which I really like, because that's kind of the path that I'm sort of taking, and I love production as well as my drumming. So she's a
Yeah.
huge inspiration. And then obviously when I was like a teenager, I was really into jazz. So I was into all the sort of crazy bebop drummers and stuff like Art
Yeah.
Blakey and Buddy Rich.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
that was more like, I feel like that was a bit more of a learning thing. That was almost like it was inspiring because I was learning through that as well. And then, yeah, I suppose I'm quite inspired by when bands manage to achieve a thing where they're all playing their part, and it's like, it's sort of, no one's doing like a drum solo or a guitar solo.
yeah,
Everyone's just doing their bit, and it's all interlocking, and it's like a puzzle, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and it all fits together perfectly. And when a band achieves that, that is like what I find really inspiring. So my like the obvious go-to example for this year for me is like Slowdive, like the sonics of what they create as a group of people, not just one of them. Like obviously Simon's a brilliant drummer and I love his drumming, but he's a piece of this puzzle, and all of their textures add together perfectly. And do you know what I mean? And I love that, and I think that's like inspiring to me.
Yeah. Do you get starstruck?
A little bit sometimes. Do you mean like if I actually meet like an idol kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I feel like
do you still go to gigs, or you're too big
yeah.
in this? Yeah. And
We were totally. I love going to gigs because again, it keeps you inspired to want to do stuff yourself. I think, and it's like new ways of, if you go and see another band, I feel like it can reinvigorate you sometimes. So we went to, there was a festival in Sheffield last month, or maybe 2 months ago in September, and we went and saw a load of bands at that, and it's totally inspiring. And I feel like I still do. Yeah, I think when someone's doing something really good and it really blows you away, I still think, oh, I'll go and say to them that I really enjoyed it, and then I get all like giggly and nervous. I think that's good. I feel like that's good because it just means I care a lot.
And do you ask for photos, or not really?
I tell you when I did that. Well, I feel like I want to blame my mum for this, but we were at Crankenhouse Festival a few years ago, and Stephen Morris was doing a talk, and I was really, and then he was doing like a book signing, and my mum said, oh, go over and have a picture with him, and I was like, Mum. But she like forced it. Well, no, she didn't force us. She said go over and just get, and I got a picture with him and, did you say Gillian? That's his
Gillian,
Gillian. Yeah, so I got a picture with those two, and I just looked like a total doofus, stood behind them like.
But did you tell them that you're a musician yourself? Did you?
My mum did. Of course, my mum did. Whereas I was trying to be all like, just normal. But she was like, look, he's a drummer too.
No, that's very good. No, because actually I always ask this because Lol Tolhurst, who was the drummer of The Cure, or the original drummer of The Cure, he said that all drummers are friends. I went to his book tour like last year, and that's what he said, that all drummers are friends. Would you agree to that one?
I like that. It's like a sentiment. I think that is like, it's like we're all part of the club.
Yeah.
I definitely found that when we were touring with Slowdive, I did have an affinity with Simon.
With Simon, yeah.
It's like the drummers club, I think.
Yeah. And do you talk drums, or
no? I'm rubbish at talking drums. I like playing drums. I'm just not so good at. I mean, we did talk about snare drums a little bit, because I think he was just like, he was in the middle of sorting out a new snare drum that he'd got. So we did a bit of that, but no, I'm not very good at that.
So. What about? Have you ever had any accidents while doing tour or while playing drums?
What, like literally on stage? Or
yeah, like
accidents in my life. I can't think of anything. I think one of my biggest phobias is like when the drum stool, when you're on like a drum riser, and I've got this real phobia that the drum stool will just slip off the back, and it's like when we're setting up, I'm always really like conscious of that line and not being near it, because that is like one of my worst fears, is just going like that. I mean, recently we did a gig in Germany at Reeperbahn, and it was really cool, and we were setting up, but it was quite hectic, and we only had like a 20-minute changeover or something, and my sample pad just wasn't turning on. And I'd say in recent years, that is probably the most stressful 10 minutes of my life, where it just wasn't coming on, and I was turning it on and off and on and off, and nothing was happening. And then like nothing really changed, but somehow it just suddenly mysteriously turned on. So as soon as we got home from that trip, I brought the sample pad to be looked at, because it was I was like, oh, okay, what do I do if this isn't going to turn on? So that was like a bit of a near near disaster for me. But I'm sure we would have figured something out, but it was a bit stressful. I didn't like how I felt. I was panicking.
So when you go tours, when you do tours abroad, do you bring your own kit or do you just use
Yeah.
um?
It depends on the situation, really. We did, if you're doing we did one in Italy where we just flew in and just brought the sort of bare minimum that we could sort of, because even just like, yeah, bringing stuff on a flight now, the more bits you bring, the more pricey it gets,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we try and do, yeah, you try and find ways of making it work. But we brought a bit of stuff for that, but then it just meant that they provided, like the festival provided like a full drum kit for me. And then other times, like recently when we did a few dates in Europe in September. We played in like Amsterdam, then we did like a radio session, and then Reeperbahn Festival, which is really cool. But we just got the Eurotunnel and went in the van, so we had all our own stuff, which I prefer it if we can do that, just because it's nice having your own stuff that
Yeah,
you know inside out. But also, like when you do fly-in shows, it's usually, they're usually brilliant with what they provide for you, so you can. I'm pretty flexible, but like if I have a choice, I quite like having my own stuff.
yeah, yeah. But is it easy to adjust to somebody like using somebody else's kit or maybe a house kit or the
I think,
venues kit?
yeah, I mean, I think for what I'm getting up to in this band, it's absolutely fine. Like do you know what I mean? It's not like I'm sort of, I'm often just playing sort of straight beats. So as long as I've got my kick, snare, and hi hats set up right, I think everything else is fine.
But the sound it makes, because I don't know. I've told you earlier before we came on live that I'm not really very technical minded when it comes to drum. But do they just sound the same, or because
it depends who's tuned them? Really, it depends what state they're in. But like I've got this special drum key that my friend got me, and it's actually really clever because it kind of measures the tension of the heads, and even if you can't hear and even if you don't have long, you can use this little key to tune everything and make sure it's equally, the tension is equal across each drum.
Yeah.
Without being able to hear, because part of tuning drums normally is obviously hearing it, how it sounds. But if you're in a line check and it's chaos, sometimes it's actually quite hard to do that. So I have got this little cool drum key hack now that I can kind of get things roughly where I want them without really even being able to hear. So that's handy. But I think usually I'll bring at minimum I'll bring my own snare drum, which I know sounds how I like it. So I think,
and then the pad, you've got the pad as well. That's your own.
Yeah, that's exactly. So I think it's usually fine. I think cymbals can be a bit hit and miss. Like my set of cymbals that I've got, I love them, and I especially love the crash cymbal. So I think when I turn up to something, if it's you can get very different standards of cymbals, so that can be a little bit hit and miss. But
yeah. Oh, okay. Well, the last question for you before, because I did say it's only going to be for an hour, but last question: what would be your advice to aspiring drummers or musicians in general? Wanting to go to this, being a drummer or being a
I think putting the hours in privately is really important. I think playing in different situations with different musicians as you go along is really important to kind of learn. And I think not giving up, because sometimes you can feel like you're hitting a wall with it, and then sometimes you just have to step away for a couple of weeks and go back to it fresh, in terms of like playing and like being like, oh, I want to be better, and then you feel like you really hit a wall and you're like, how do they do that? Sometimes you got to just stop for a bit, I think. But also just in terms of the music industry as well, just like not giving up, because along the way I think people can like not quite understand what you do, or you'll say like, oh, you're producing music, and they'll be like, oh, what's that, like what does that look like, kind of thing. I think just like being true to it, and if you no, you should be doing it, do it. And it, you know, because people want to put things in a box and people want to say, oh, so do you get paid by the hour to do that? Or like, how does that work with money? And sometimes it's important to remember, like, okay, it doesn't correlate. It's not a pay by the hour thing. It's a thing you love doing, and you've got to put the hours in, and loads of it won't be paid, but you are going to be doing the thing you love. And then, like you're saying, hopefully if you're doing the thing you love, maybe the money side will follow eventually. But I think not giving up is really like has been my mantra, because there's definite ups and downs. Like there are ups and downs anyway, aren't there, in life in general?
In general, yes.
So like I think it's the same. There's periods where you feel like you get overthinking, and you're like, is what we've done any good? And I don't know, all the normal insecurities that people have. And then other times you're flying and everything feels like it's going your way. So I just think you've got to stick with it, because it's crazy. But
it's because you love what you do, and then that's
if you keep coming back to it as well, it's your own fault.
Well, thank you so much. Do you want to just invite them to your gig at the parish in Huddersfield?
Oh yeah,
I didn't get the date though, because is that November or December? It's November.
It's literally. I think it's our last gig of the year, and it's we're playing on Saturday night at the parish.
Yeah,
and I think our stage time is like 8:30.
Okay, yeah, but it's all on your Facebook page anyway. So social media.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Lucy. I really enjoyed talking to you, because with me, whenever I go to a gig and I want to speak to a drummer, but there's always no time. So like I just ask for a photograph and then I go, and then hopefully you'll say yes, and you did say yes. So thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks for your time.
Good luck with the new album. Hopefully it'll be released next year.
Yeah.
That's something to look forward to. So okay. Thank you so much. See you again.
Cheers. Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live, and thank you so much, Lucy Board, for saying yes to Ask the Drummer. It's now it's after 7 now. So we're gonna be back hopefully on Sunday again for another episode of Ask the Drummer, and then after that it's gonna be Shine On. So I'm gonna be away on that Sunday, that weekend, because I do love going to Shine On Music Festival. But I was saying earlier that the reason why I didn't do it on Sundays because I was in Edinburgh. I was the Michael Head and the Red Elastic Band gig. Once again, they're doing the winter tour, the Loophole winter tour. If you haven't got a ticket, they're still doing one in December. Just check out their social media pages and make sure you buy a ticket, because they're absolutely amazing. When Lucy was talking about all the different members of the band doing their thing, and they all sort of like fit together like a jigsaw puzzle, exactly what I thought of with Michael Head and the Red Elastic Band last night in Edinburgh. They were just like that. So so do check out Michael Head and the Red Elastic Band social media account, and also Pale Blue Eyes social media, Facebook. They've got the dates there for the gig at the parish. That's another venue that's really, really amazing. I was there last Friday. It's so good. You've got to go and check that out in Huddersfield. So thanks again, everyone. Hope to see you all again next week. And as always, love music, love life. Love drummers. They're absolutely amazing. Lucy Board, thank you so much. And I'll see you all again next week. Bye for now. Bye.